Hey guys, I'm Blaise Pezold. Like she said, I'm the Coastal Program Manager and Environmental Program Manager for the Miro Foundation. Background on myself, I am a former chef, and post-Katrina, I got really disheartened at what happened and kind of started looking for more clues to why the levees failed, what's going on with our coastline, and I got really into that and like reading articles in the newspaper. And my father's a scientist, and I always did field work with him as a child and especially a teenager. And I just said, man, I'm gonna go back into science. Like, I'm not having a lot of fun with the cooking industry, and I feel like I can make a difference in my community. And so that's when I went back to that. That was in 2007. I graduated in 2011. So I've been in the coastal game about 9 years. I worked for a bunch of environmental nonprofits out of when I got done with my geology. I have a Earth Environmental Science degree, which is kind of a glorified geology degree that you do a lot of fisheries and biology mixed in. So I got that degree. I went and worked for the environmental nonprofits. Then I worked for the state for 4 years, running a program called the Coastal Revegetation Program. And that they do multiple miles of revegetating the coast because that's our cheapest option as far as how to restore our natural functions of our coastline. And then about 3 years ago, I was lucky enough to get hired on with the Miro Foundation, who I've been working for as a contractor for a program I'll talk about later. And I've been doing that since, and I've had a lot of really good successes that I'll talk about later on in the PowerPoint.
I wanted to see you.
Okay. So yeah, I work for the foundation. I think I might have sent the wrong PowerPoint, but okay. This is the top of the Mississippi River. This is Lake Itasca, and where you see the rocks there, the lake slowly starts to feed the Mississippi River. And like it says in there, it goes 2,552 miles down to the river, down to the Gulf. And right here, it's a beautiful, clear little stream, nothing like what we know of as the Mississippi River. And one of my favorite things is to go walk down that in the river, because it's maybe waist deep at most. So some basic geography. The way most of the continental United States is built is be there, where things, they can see me, huh?
They can.
They can see me? Okay, where things are like this. Since we live in a delta, our landforms are like this instead. And the reason for that is, obviously we have no hills here. We have no real topography except for a minor amount near any bayou or river. And so that's why you have high ground near the river or a bayou, and that's why you have older neighborhoods there, because that originally was the only place that you could go and build a house on. And here it is again, when we're talking about deltaic landforms, you need to think of a river going to go, or actually a better analogy would be a hose in your front yard that you turn on full blast and it starts whipping back and forth. That is basically a river will always try to find the easiest route to the Gulf. So if it's going, say, the current way it's going now, it now wants to go to the Atchafalaya because that's the lower spot and the easier spot for it to go, because the river follows gravity. So when we do have a flood, as you can see in the little diagrams below, it goes in floods, and right near the river, you're going to have a buildup of larger sediment granules. So your sand, and then on the outer parts, you'll get clay and then silt, which is the finest, and then maybe organics beyond that. But often organics will grow on top of silt. So there can be two different ways that happens. But so because of that, like I was saying, you have that high ground that builds right near any sort of distributary channel. So you have tributaries that come into a river. You have different distributaries where the river divides into different sections. So at one point, Bayou Lafourche was a main tributary of the Mississippi River. At one point, Bayou Terrebuff here in St. Bernard was the same thing, and Bayou La Loutre was the same thing. At one point, that was the river, and then it became a lesser channel and a distributary at the time of like Bienville and Iberville when they took Terrebuff up. So this picture is a really interesting picture. This is south. This is right around Empire or Buras, and this is looking directly south towards Venice. And if you look on the right, you can see the levied areas of Buras and Empire. If you look on the left, it's unlevied and unoccupied. And you see those kind of natural patterns cutting through some really straight lines. The straight lines are canals. The natural patterns are what the river is doing there. And because there is no levee there, the river goes and floods up and over through those natural channels. And that area is actually higher than the levied area that's on the right of the picture. So it's just some kind of interesting stuff because, basically you're having constant sediment deposited every year in that area up to the left. So here's more about when I was talking about the hose in your front yard and its switching. This is thousands of years of evolution of the delta and the river, and it changing course multiple times. And we'll kind of go back to this. We're currently in the Blaise Delta, but that is an unnatural channel. That is a levee channel. And then we actually have, we have, forgot the actual name for them. It's a lot of terms, but we direct the Mississippi River from the Blaise Delta here to the west, and that's for shipping purposes. I'll get to that in a second. But where the river actually wants to go is down through the Morgan City and the Atchafalaya River and the Wax Lake Delta and all that. Does anybody have any questions at this point? All right, good.
None have come through in the chat, so you're good.
Excellent. So this is kind of a generic, stylized version of what happens in a river or in one of those distributary channels. So in St. Bernard or anywhere in the Gulf or in South Louisiana, the river's changing course often, and different areas are in different states of decay post-river there. Or they're in kind of a rebirth, which is like the area below the Atchafalaya. So this is kind of a generic version of that. And if you look at these, you have a prograding delta head. That would be Wax Lake or Atchafalaya deltas. And then you start to have erosion. And what will happen is the waves go and form up. They'll take all the sand and they form up a barrier island there. So in St. Bernard's case, we have the Chandeleur Islands that are really old and way offshore. You go to Western Plaquemines Parish or you go to Lafourche, and Lafourche is actually still connected, or kind of connected. You can still see from old aerial photos where it was connected to the barrier island systems of Grand Isle, Caminot Headland, and Fouchon. So I would say Lafourche is just a little bit past stage one on there. Stage two, that's closer to what we are here in St. Bernard. We're a really old delta, and we've been detached for a very long time. And I would say we're actually probably somewhere between stage 2 and stage 3. So if you're thinking about this in terms of like human existence, we are an 80 or 90-year-old patient that has a stent and everything you could ever think of having already done to them, good and bad. They were definitely a smoker, had diabetes, etc. So everything bad. but we also are doing everything we can to save that patient. And I think that's a really good analogy when you start to think about these things, because one of the biggest things I hope you understand today is you can't save everything as is currently. Nature is never static. Nature goes up and down and up and down and up and down. And a lot of it is choices we make as a community or as a country or globally. And we'll get into some of that later. So I always view it as like, okay, now are we going to go put this person on the latest heart medication? Like, can we do this to like save their use of their arm? You know, that's really how it needs to be viewed. What is the biggest bang for our buck to leave us in the least harmful situation? And I'm trying not to be negative, but it really is a negative situation. We have a lot of positives going on. I'm a very positive person. I try to be, but I'm looking to buy a house. That's a 30-year mortgage. I really question my sanity at times. And I start to think about it, and I start to look at like elevation maps and like, well, do I want to be inside this levee or that levee? Like, and that's only because like I look at the aerial views when they're updated on Google, or I go out in a boat and I look at it and I'm like, this is really bad, because it really is. It's really bad. But we're trying. So yeah, like I said, really bad. You can see it on this map. This is 2010. This is a 10-year-old map. Some of it is not all the way accurate. There's some spots down in Plaquemine that are now going green because and it's that area that's not leveed, because the river has actually filled in giant bays with river sediment. And then if you look down here in Venice, you have a little bit of that green there, and I think the Corps is doing some stuff to kind of fill in spots in that area. And then if you look over here, just below Morgan City, you can see to my right would be the Atchafalaya Delta, and then to the left would be the Wax Lake Delta. And those are the three green spots in our whole state. The only places we're building land. So just, kind of think about that. Like our system is in decay, heavily in decay. But we do have a plan, and it's updated every 5 years. It is not the best plan, but it's the best plan we have. I often disagree with points in it, and I make those known. But I'm not the one that would tell you, don't tell your senator to vote for it. Please tell your senator to vote for it, no matter what, because it's more of a consensus document than like a living consensus document than something that is, that needs to be voted down. It needs to be voted up every time, even if I don't agree with every little bit of it. Because there are some areas where I like the Chandeleur Islands. I think they should be in it. Absolutely. The Biloxi Marsh should be in it. But both of those were written out in the 2017 iteration. I think some of it is faulty geology, and then some of it is that scenario of what can we afford, what are our best options as far as, it's budgeting basically. And I feel like there's some spots where they could tweak it and they could put that in the budget, but I'm in a minority there. But it's got all kind of different types of stuff, from burial and restoration, armoring, vegetative plantings, like shoreline restoration. There's a lot of dredging in it. That's actually the most costly piece of it. There's diversions, there's oyster reefs, there's everything you think of as far as, and that's how I like it. I think in order to attack a problem on this scale, you need every tool in the toolbox. And I think when you start taking tools out and say, we'll never use this tool, I think you're really setting us up for massive failure. So I support it.